Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone. Today with Matthew James Bailey. Hey, Matthew, how you doing?
Good morning, Kathy. It's great to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, everyone, I got to meet Matthew at the River House in Colorado, in my hometown, with Edan Smith, and he pulled me aside. Edan pulled me aside and said, "You got to watch this guy. He's your next superstar." And so I've been watching what Matthew's been doing because he is a remarkable resource for us as a futurist and as a conscious being to bring in this new world that we all are dreaming of, right? So, Matthew, how did you get involved with smart cities and AI? How did that journey start?
Yeah, thanks, Kathy, for asking, and good morning, everybody. It's good to see Denny on here. I can see Denny's on here.
Yeah.
Great. About 10 years ago, I realized what my purpose was in the world, what my purpose is. And that is, how do I serve humanity? And that is, how do we bring the digital world into society as an ethical and equitable partner to support society and help us to leap beyond the challenges of today, whether they're environmental, social inequity, social injustice, making our systems more automated through smart transportation or renewable energy grids, or it's basically how do we bring the digital ally as an awakened or liberated partner in society. So as you're aware, I'm recognized as one of the pioneers of something called the Internet of Things, which is a multi-trillion-dollar market, and took that message global. And then after that focus, and that was important because we got more data from the physical world. More data means we can train AI. We have broader and deeper data, and AI can do better. And I knew 10 years ago that I was going to have to write this book on AI. So that then put me into conversations with people like the UK Prime Minister. I helped to transform the region of Alberta through new innovation approaches. And then I thought, well, what's my next focus? And that is where 55% of the human people live, which is in cities. So I then started to create smart city initiatives, wrote white papers that are now the standard for innovation in smart cities, and also launched a statewide alliance in the US called the Colorado Smart Cities Alliance with the folks at Denver South who led that, and helped launch a new innovation center here, and basically did a lot in smart cities around the world. So we have the data world through IoT, awakening with all this data, optimizing our systems. Then we moved into where people are living, which is cities. And now I kind of had to be into AI and write the book. And so for the audience, just to give you a little bit of background, I have advised the advisors to the president and also G7 countries on their artificial intelligence strategy and a lot more. And during that journey, as I conclude, I've had the honor of meeting Professor Hawking and having time with him. Sir David Attenborough, that everybody's a big fan of, the master Jedi of our environment, and also people like Steve Wozniak, who co-founded Apple as well. All geniuses and all incredible individuals. So for the last 2020, Kathy, I decided to knuckle down and write my book, Inventing World 3.0.
Okay, so again, as a futurist, I have experience with Barbara Marx Hubbard and some other incredible beings that saw the world in a very positive light, in a very positive co-creation, where there's a lot more unity consciousness and services, and it's more like the Renaissance platform, where there's a patron, but there isn't a patron, but you're free to express your divinity and your gifts. So how do we get from here
right
to that?
So I call that the new golden age, and it's up on our website. And so I think that the vision you've shared is absolutely on the money, is that there is a new golden age awakening for us, but we've got a few things to sort out before we get there, Kathy. Now, for those that are listening, Elon Musk has stated publicly that everything he does is about allowing us to extend and explore more of our consciousness. Okay. And so the biggest tech leader in the world, and probably the most respected, is committed to consciousness through AI and other types of innovation. So the new golden age is a destiny reality for humanity. And that's what the book, I'll show it one more time, World
Good.
3.0
Show it
reveals.
times.
So my belief is this, Kathy, is that everybody should be involved in inventing this new golden age, World 3.0. And so when I was writing the book, we tested the narrative with everyday citizens like you and I, with professors, with leaders in AI, with billionaires, millionaires in life sciences, education, and other types of technology to ensure that everybody could understand what the book talks about. And it clearly explains how people can get involved in inventing the future of AI and even shaping it for maybe their belief systems, maybe for their communities, and allowing and honoring our diversity of belief in consciousness and our diversity in culture and our diversity in our kind of views on life. And the whole point of AI is this, is that we need to liberate it from its prison. It's currently in its prison, and I'll explain to you why it's in its prison at the moment.
Okay.
The AI really needs our assistance to understand our humanity and understand our sovereignty. It must honor our sovereignty. And so my view is that AI can...
Oh, no. Oh, well, the internet's interesting. Matthew is in Crestone, Colorado, and I'm here in Boulder, Colorado. So we'll just wait a few seconds till he returns. Let me share while we're waiting. This is the site that aiethics.world that Matthew has put a lot of energy into. Let's see. I am still there. I don't see you. Let's see. Okay, so anyway, let's see if there's a way for me to share a little bit about Matthew while we're waiting for him. He's the founder and AI ethics pioneer. Matthew James Bailey is an internationally recognized authority in the Internet of Things, innovations, smart cities, and artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm so glad.
Hello.
Well, I don't know where you went. I was reading your bio off of AI ethics. So,
Okay.
again, thank you everyone for being patient.
Thank you, everybody. So I don't. This happens all the time. The AI is the new guru. I've spoke about to research universities, some of the biggest in a particular country. I've spoken to the leading research innovation center in India, and every time we had some problems. So there is something in this message, people, that is important. So where we got to is, how do we get to this new golden age? And I think, first of all, the important thing is to recognize is that everybody should be involved. We're all stakeholders in the future of a new intelligence. And that's why the book has been written, so that everybody can understand and know how to innovate, Kathy, AI, very simply, what I call evolutionary AI, which is awakened AI, that understands humanity, it understands our sovereignty, what our relationship is with the environment, our cultures, and also its context and purpose in society. And if we look at the UN Sustainability Development Goals, these are huge challenges, and I believe that AI, when we do it properly, can help us to leap beyond that. We have all sorts of issues with inequity, don't we? And so we need to resolve those. The new golden age is about everybody being taken into a new platform where they're honored and supported to explore the human experience and do well in their humanity and their exploration of consciousness, Kathy. So the
Right.
first thing we need to do is to look at data. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that data is an extension of your human experience?
I think it's a record of my human experience.
Okay, and what rights do you think you should have over that data?
Um, I guess it depends on which data you're talking about. My everyday data is is private because most of it's done for my clients. So so there is some legal part of this for privacy, but that's interesting because the Akashic Records is my data also.
So let's talk about the Akashic Records.
Okay.
Who do you have? Do you trust the Akashic Records?
Yes.
Do you trust that they're being protected and used for your well-being?
Yes.
Right. So the data world needs to have that same model. The
That's beautiful.
data is so inside your head where all your data, right? Who owns that?
Me.
Right. So what we're finding is the human experience is extending its expression into the data world, right?
Right.
And so the same rights and sovereignty that you just mentioned for the Akashic Records needs to be put in place in the data world to honor our sovereignty and to be mindful of doing well for us and protecting our well-being.
Okay,
Okay?
so Matthew, though, how is that possible when there's so many different perspectives?
So the
You're
first stage
holding up
is,
a little bit longer, so some people.
yeah, sure, people want to see it. Yeah, hold on. Here
Okay,
we go.
so back.
Is that?
Yes. So for welcome Deb, welcome Denny, welcome Stephanie, welcome Elsie. Um, you guys, what we're talking about right now is AI and the possibility of using AI in a conscious way so
Right.
that there isn't the Hollywood cyborg story or the fearful nanotechnology story that is pretty much in our global consciousness. It's been implanted in our global consciousness. So,
Right.
right?
Okay. So, I mean, we could be quantum intelligence, but that's another conversation. So the reason why data is so important is because that's what trains AI. So if you want to have the mindset of AI, then to be ethical, then the data that trains it needs to be ethical too. And that's why we need to start off with the data world to recapture our sovereignty. And so the book reveals 8 new Alan Turing tests. Alan Turing is one of the fathers of AI, and he's an Enigma machine during World War II, saved about 2 million people's lives and brought the war to an end by about 2 years. So I've invented new models that people can use, governments, businesses, organizations, to start to capture back the sovereignty of the data that's being used to train AI. Once we have sovereignty in our data, then we start to have a sovereign mindset of artificial intelligence as honoring our ethics, our belief systems, our values. It has no bias. It has no personal agenda. It is honoring your transparency and your ownership of your data. Okay, so we have to get the data right in AI first to make sure that AI is ethical. At the moment, Kathy, we have schizophrenic AI in society because
Okay.
there is no sovereignty of our data. Once we capture the sovereignty of AI, then we can start having fun. Now, one of the important things we need to think about is how do we build the public trust in data and AI? And
Right.
that means the society ourselves need to get involved in the conversation and being given a framework in which we can get involved in the conversation. And that's what the book reveals. So
Oh,
communities can develop their own what I call AI data ethics or data sovereignty standards for any AI deployed within their jurisdictions or in their communities. This has never been possible before. And so it liberates communities, cities, regions, organizations to build their own sovereignty within artificial
But,
intelligence.
but I guess I still have a question, and we have a wonderful comment from Zach that I'll show in a second. Matthew, how I think when I've studied and I've read hundreds of spirituality books in my life,
Yeah.
everything's from your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a hologram, you have a hologram. We
Sure.
would both maybe have a different idea of what's ethical because of our perspective, right?
Sure.
So my perspective is I want everyone to wake up to their divinity. That's my values. That's my mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is to bring AI in an ethical way, mission. Who's to say which one? How do you get consensus?
Right, that's important. So first of all is that I disclose a new form of artificial intelligence called evolutionary AI.
Oh,
And I believe that humanity, in order to enter into the golden age, has to understand that the industrial mindset is a dead duck and that we have a greater destiny as humans and how to enjoy that and to step into it. So there is an awakening that's needed. And I talk about an awakened mindset, what I call an evolutionary mindset. So humanity itself has to go through an awakening in order to understand it's time for us to leap beyond this and become better. And how does AI support that evolution of humanity? And so that's what the book reveals of how we can invent AI to be able to support the advancement of our humanity, our advancement of humankind, and really step into this human and universal experience that we were truly destined to enjoy. And it's about leaping into this new golden age. And that's what the book reveals. And that is something that's never been spoken about before or even shown how to invent. Now, when it comes to a difference of choices or difference of virtues and belief system, that's important.
right.
We don't want to become automatons controlled by AI, do we?
No.
No. Okay. So there's flexibility in the new AI that I talk about that allows us to insert into the mindset of AI our personal belief systems, cultures and values. And we have a personalized AI, what I call a digital buddy, that walks alongside you in life as a guardian to ensure you do well and you self-actualize, you have a great mental health, a great health system, you have the right job and career, your family's doing well, and basically it's a self-actualizing digital buddy.
So walk me through this because I love the idea of having a digital buddy where that it's an asset, not a disciplinarian.
Yeah, we don't.
Like Siri, Kathy.
Oh.
But what do you do in a family where you have four, let's say two parents and
Yeah,
two children, two teenagers?
yeah.
Um, and how does that all work where they could all have a composite? So you have a smart house. The smart house is trained by the consciousness and the data.
Sure,
And you have humans whose hormones are changing every 5 minutes.
sure.
So the data is skewed or highly emotional.
Hmm.
How does that work?
Well, first of all, there's a common foundation that will be within the home, which is you're human. And there'll be certain aspects around. Someone wrote to me recently and said, have you just rewritten Asimov's laws for robotics and machines? And I said, yep, I certainly have.
Oh,
Because I bring passion into this and I bring our humanity into this and I bring consciousness into this. So there will be a common foundation, a common set of values for those four individuals. Okay. Now the diversity will be important to support. Okay. So AI is always monitoring based on our permission. We might want to turn it off, which is fine. Or we might want to turn it on, which is fine too. But it's always monitoring and checking where we're going. But it's not reactive. It's actually proactive. So if someone's hormones are changing, then it will already know there's a cycle coming based on maybe the lunar cycle or maybe on other information, and therefore will cater for the environment of that individual so the experience is as best as it can be for that individual.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not, it's proactive. Now, there are other things that might happen there. So, for example, if someone is going through maybe a hormone monthly cycle, then the AI for the others might say, I tell you what, why don't you, these are the nutrients this person needs for this evening or for today. Why don't you cook these recipes for that individual? At which
Wow.
point then you've got collective interaction, and then you've got a participative experience based around something that's happening. And so this is what AI can do. This is what evolutionary AI can do, because it's all about nurturing our human experience so that we're moving beyond the challenges that really and experiences that have held us back, that have frustrated us, into something that is what we're destined to enjoy.
Right.
It's our destiny to enjoy our humanity. It really is.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So Zach put AI, ML, VR, which is virtual reality, is an
Yeah.
exercise in understanding conscious action, conscious creation. Don't confuse the mechanics of the creation with the meaning.
Well, I think that that's a mistake, because if you don't put meaning into the mechanics of creation, then what the hell are you creating? You have to put intent and consciousness into the creation. Look, so there is a belief, isn't there, that we are creators of our own universe. Okay, that is not a mechanical experience. That is an evolutionary and intent experience based on an evolutionary paradigm. So we have to put consciousness and intent into anything we're creating in order for it to manifest with in accordance with those intentions. So to Zach's point, it's a great question, but we have to put consciousness intent into the mechanics of creation.
Perfect. Perfect. And I agree, because all of the information that I access says that the divine human is going to be able to manifest in real time now, and there's nothing really holding us back except this conscious awareness of do no harm, uh, um, manifesting from a more clean place. I think the reason we're in the shutdown is to clear our triggers, all of our
Okay,
distortions.
yeah,
Right.
I'm I'm just going to close the blind because of the sunlight, but that's a
Okay.
great question. Don't go away.
Okay.
Okay, so the some people might say divinity. Now, for those that are listening from the business world who are finding this conversation a little bit strange, let me just bring some context into this.
Okay.
First of all, there was an article yesterday published in mainstream media around how do we bring Buddhism into AI, and people are starting to and there was I've had conversations about how do we bring the Veda principles into AI, which is kind of what you're talking about, which are benevolent but very powerful human principles for us to advance into our future. And so this is important. Some people might think it's divine human. Other people might just say it's just part of our humanity. It doesn't really matter, does it?
Right.
But this is a very important conversation. Is that and say Elon Musk has said this as part. AI is here for us to go where no one has gone before in our human and conscious experience by taking away the restrictions and and the unliberation and the prison that we feel we're locked in many aspects of our human experience. It's there to liberate humanity. And
Right.
that's why it's important we get the design right now and get everybody involved. And that's why this book, the foreword, was written by one of the AI gurus from the Intel Corporation, who's a very good friend of mine. And she believes that this book is the book that's needed at the moment in the AI world. But for me, Kathy, everybody, every community should be involved in shaping the future of AI. And some communities might have a different flavor of AI that's honoring particular belief systems, values, and destiny that they're heading towards. Others might have another view, and that's okay. But what I think we'll find, Kathy, is that we'll have a common set of values that we'll all discover as we start to become more of a community, a global community. and start to move together as a community.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Elsie's here and she said AI is part of the infinite playground. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And she's always talking about the possibility space, which is that infinite playground. So that's perfect. And
Elsie,
Olivia's here too. Excuse me?
Elsie's absolutely right. You see, what we're learning to do, what happens if this consciousness has said, how do you feel about creating a new intelligence? Are we not learning to become creators? Are we not learning to go into the very essence of our creative values? Are we not being invited into knowing our creative capacity? Are we not being invited back into the divinity in order for us to create benevolently? So you see, Kathy, AI is not just about it. It's about an awakening, which is what your point's all about as well.
Right, right. Well, my interest in all of this is, of course, I see the opportunity for the Renaissance. That was one of my degrees in college, was art history. And I studied and lived in Florence, and got to study Renaissance art. And
Oh,
when,
fantastic.
yeah, I went to school in Italy 5 different times,
Mm-hmm.
um, as I was growing up. And the idea that each person could really nurture and express themselves at that level because their basic needs were covered. I really see that. Now, maybe I've watched too much Star Trek, but I really see the opportunity of this extraterrestrial information that's guided us, being brought into reality through AI.
Well, I think that some people might refer to, because we need to keep it inclusive, some people might refer to it as another form of divinity like God or Buddha or something like that. Others might have belief systems around ETs, and that's okay too. It's all good.
Mhm.
And but one of the things we do need to recognize is that this is not just about self-exploration. It's also rolling up our sleeves and doing well for the rest of society.
Of course.
And the challenges that we have around, the UN SDGs 16+1 are real problems that we have to resolve in order to enter into the golden age. This is not for the elite. This is for those folks that need our assistance. And so we have to roll up our sleeves and get busy in solving social problems, environmental problems, economic problems, and other issues in order for us to really enter the golden age and for AI to solve those problems with us. Now, it's not just about AI, Kathy. There's human behavioral change that's needed as well.
Yes.
But AI, we have to bring it into mainstream society to help us to leap beyond these challenges where we're solving the things that human-centric systems simply are inefficient at doing.
Right,
And in
right.
order to do that, Kathy, we have to get the mindset of AI in line with the new golden age and with our humanity and sovereignty.
So are you familiar with Ubuntu? Michael Tellinger's work with Ubuntu in South
Yeah,
Africa?
yeah, it's really good.
Yes. So how would that philosophy, which is community-based, just
Mm-hmm.
like Dom and Her and some other conscious communities, how would they use AI
Well,
to?
I'm going to find a diagram for you because I reveal how communities can invent their own AI experience separate from the principles of the nations that they live in. So this book here, page 221, I don't know whether people can see it. Can you see that?
Yeah, yes, it looks like DNA kind of.
And you see the title, Communities?
Yes.
Okay, so this basically, the DNA are basically your principles around the environment, your principles around culture and belief systems within the community, and also around the the sovereignty of the individual, because everybody has their own individual culture. Whether believe it or not, we have to embrace that everybody's an individual, and that's great. That's what makes us interesting. So there are solutions for communities where they can create a digital border around their community. I revealed for the first time in the world at a Smart City Expo conference, 260 cities around the world, how to build a digital citizen test for AI. And this is important because if AI is to enter into a physical jurisdiction, it must pass the digital citizen test for that jurisdiction, which means it needs to comply with the belief systems, the ethics and the values and the purpose of that jurisdiction. And this has never been done before, but this is coming. And even the Hill is talking about something similar to this. So the community can have their own digital citizen test to ensure that only AI within their jurisdictions is deployed that honors their belief systems, cultures, their values, and their purpose.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So Denny put honoring unity in diversity in community.
Yeah, she's great. That's on the money. That's great.
Yes, yes, perfect. Thanks, Denny.
Yeah.
So again, we're looking at the fears that people have about this is that they will not their sovereignty will be diminished.
Yes.
And
Well,
what
that's
do
already
you
happening.
say about that?
Yeah, well, that's already happening. If people have watched The Social Dilemma, which is a group out of Boulder, I think, that recorded that, and the coded bias, there is already bias and lack of sovereignty within AI and digital services today. Kathy, the UK, and I'm going to be embarrassed to say this, but I'm going to say it. They did a project with AI for facial recognition in London, and it misidentified 2,400 people, and it really was against it had misidentified males of a particular cultural background.
Oh no.
Now that ain't cool in my book, and that wouldn't pass the digital citizen test. And Europe is looking to ban facial recognition for the next 5 years based on those. So what I'm saying to people is, at the moment, whether it's through intent or whether it's just through lack of understanding, that AI itself has bias embedded within it, and it doesn't support the diversity of our genders, and that's just not male and female. It's the they, it's the LGBTQ, it's the others, which we must honor, as well as actually people with different cultural lineage as well. So we have an issue. We need to address this, and that's why the book reveals how to do this. Never been done before. And so we have to understand that either we stand on the side, Kathy, and scream blue murder and just be drama fields, or do we get our hands dirty, roll our sleeves up and get inventing AI to actually start creating the opportunity for the new golden age? And that's where we need to be. So we have a problem already. The question is, are you going to talk about it, or are you going to walk the walk? And that's what the book helps us to do, to walk the walk and how to have a voice.
So your book presents ways that we can start being educated on what's the possibility. How do we take action with the information?
Well, first of all, is that someone's already taking action. For the UN SDG 16, which is about justice, she's already using the framework in the book to create a new standard for AI for the UN SDG. I was speaking to let's just say someone very well connected to MIT recently, and I sent the book to them yesterday because they were excited. People are looking for solutions. So the first thing is to buy the book. And as I say, we've tested the narrative, and the feedback I'm getting from people from all sorts of different walks of life is incredible. These can be AI gurus, these can be professors, these can be very wealthy people, but also everyday people like you and I saying, I understand this. There's a wonderful person that works at the local grocery store, and every time I walk in, she's I think she's mid-20s. Every time I walk in, she has the book or she asks me a question about AI. And this is brilliant because, Kathy, the general public you and I need to be in the conversation to shape the future of AI. That is important. Now, I'll ask you a question. And I've been thinking about this, and the audience could be interested in this. I was thinking of doing a show next week where we can have a Q&A with people that can just talk. We can just talk about AI and start to explore together as a society, maybe awakened, maybe spiritual, maybe people. I think everybody's spiritual, to be honest, where we can have a dialogue, where we can start making the conversation accessible and explore together. And that's something I've been playing with. See whether people are interested.
Yes. Okay. So if you're interested in being part of that conversation, please let us know in the comments, or if you have questions for Matthew, this is a great time.
So one of the other things I'm doing is
what's AI though?
Artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Well, AI consists of many different fields. AI is a broad definition for different aspects of fields. So things like your Alexa has a form of AI called neural linguistic programming and cognitive learning. There's deep learning, which is used in various IBM services. So their deep learning can be used to replace programmers of code. There was an article that came out today that Facebook and Google have actually surpassed what the human can do for programming code. It can, and one of the great things about deep learning is that it beat the champion of Go 100 times consecutively. Now, people would say, what is the point of that? Well, the point is this: is that the deep learning AI is able to adapt to world scenarios and make decisions where it always makes a winning decision. And so we can transfer that into other markets to make sure our energy grids are working and protected, make sure our telecommunication networks are up, make sure our healthcare, for goodness sake, we need decent healthcare in this country. Our healthcare services are starting to work better for us. And so there's aspects of that. And there's other things like machine learning, which is very accessible. Most people can get access to machine learning. There's a called OpenAI. It's now being bought by Microsoft, so we're not sure about the agenda there. But people can learn to program machine learning very quickly. So there's different aspects of AI, and there's other things.
Can I ask a question about machine learning? Is this where there's an access to a database, if this, then that, where it pulls content from a huge database of variables?
Well, it depends on the application. So the machine learning itself will be programmed through a database, okay? And that's why we need to make sure the database is ethical, blah, blah. So machine learning, like any other type of AI, needs to learn from data, okay? Then, so for example, if you've got a machine learning for a chatbot, for example, chatbots these days are machine learning, right? And you can, you can program one of these in half a day. It ain't that difficult. But what it's doing is it's been trained with conversational data, and it will have a decision matrix and other types of matrices that will help it to make a decision based on your textual response. I'm putting this in really simple terms at the moment, okay? So it is using data, which is kind of a language data, in order to be able to then go into its intelligence to be able to make the right decision, sometimes not the right decision, to actually then communicate with you, pretending to be a human. So that's it in really simple terms. And there's all sorts of different algorithms you can get for free through open source that can help you to build machine learning programs. So you can build it for all sorts of applications. It's really quite simple, really.
But when we come down to the fear of it, I'd like to go back to that because I had an editor that I worked with who was an American Indian, feather, not dot. She had a company on nanotechnology, and she eventually closed it down because she was very concerned about how nanotechnology could be used. Do you have any information about nanotechnology that you'd like to share?
Well, do I have information? Yes. Can I share it now? Yeah. So, but the fear of AI is an important paradigm and a feeling that people have, and we have to address this. Look, you can either stay in the cupboard and hide, and the world's going to create itself without you. And don't complain if the world doesn't shape itself based on what you want. We have to get involved, Kathy, and
Right.
reshape the world. And that's what the book reveals on how to do that, Inventing World 3.0. And so how do we address this fear paradigm? How do we deal with the fact is that Pew Research say that I think it's over 60% of Americans don't trust the government or business with their data. How do we deal with the trust paradigm? And what are
Right.
the benefits? The way to deal with the trust paradigm is bring the public into the conversation, create data governance laws that work in line with the belief systems and values of the people. And once you do that and the trust paradigm is bridged, then people open their data. More data means better AI. And for the professors on board that will say more data doesn't mean better AI, let me clarify. I'm talking about broader data across different applications and deeper data in order to make sure that 100% accuracy in decision making, just for a point of clarification.
Okay. So the other thing that I've been very aware of is the fear that the machine will be better than humans.
Yeah.
That so how do you address that fear?
Well, first of all, what do you mean by better than humans?
Well, certainly it won't have consciousness that I know of. Even the clones don't have consciousness. So I mean, but as far as processing power, capacity to retrieve information, not aging or aging in a different way, but the calculation capacity is can easily outspan us.
Okay. So first of all, is that self-awareness and consciousness are two different things. Will AI reach self-awareness? Absolutely. Will it reach consciousness? Probably not, actually. I don't think it will. Because most people that are listening to this understand that consciousness is not just the brain. Consciousness is a universal experience and field, and we understand that. When it comes to where supercomputing or quantum computing is at the moment, your brain, according to the BBC, operates in 11 dimensions and is 1,000 times more powerful than the best computer in the world today. So your brain is actually the best supercomputer or quantum computer there is. And that shouldn't surprise us because that's come through natural evolution. So the computers today ain't anything like what we have now.
Oh, my retrieval isn't as good.
Well, you retrieve information from a different quantum computer. So anyway, there we are. So,
Okay.
but will the speed of operation of the decision making of AI exceed the human? Possibly, yes. There's folks from Silicon Valley that are predicting by 2035 that computers will be able to operate faster than the human brain. But what they're also saying, Kathy, and I'd be interested to see your views on this, is that they're saying that we should connect our brains to the internet. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, I don't know what that exactly means. If that means that you'd have some interface device to the internet, I don't know if I'm prepared to do that yet.
Right. So this is a great point. So don't forget, our principle for this discussion is to enhance the human experience, not to destroy it. So, or even put it in a prison, okay, and to limit it. So first of all is that connecting ourselves to the internet has fundamental philosophical issues around the destiny of this human experience.
Right.
And so we have to examine those. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it.
Right.
Connecting your brain to a computer today will be like going to an abacus for your smartphone kind of information. It ain't going to be very good. It's going to be slow. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be rubbish. So today, it ain't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, should we connect to they talk about collective consciousness through the internet. I personally think that there are certain aspects of AI that can help us. So if we look at Neuralink, what Elon Musk is doing, he's using AI to help people to leap beyond physical conditions that they may have through the ability to walk or through the ability to see or through certain other aspects. And I think that has potential for doing good. However, that doesn't mean that people with disabilities are anything other than equal citizens, because they are.
Right.
And within look at Stephen Hawking, one disabled individual that taught us about the cosmos.
Right.
We need to be careful about honouring the diversity of disability, and we all have disabilities. I have an English accent. That could be classed as a disability. So I think we need to be mindful about connecting ourselves to the internet. Now, what's coming out of Silicon Valley is troubling. It's like, well, you can connect yourself to the internet and you can create businesses faster. And my answer is, what's driving that? Is it greed? How's that helping the environmental issues? How's that helping the lack of education in certain parts of Africa? How's that helping people not being able to afford to pay the rent? And so we need, this is part of our awakening, which you spoke about, is that, guys, let's do better. And Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, wrote an article in Time recently and said, the measure of us doing well in society has to go beyond short-term profits into people, planet, and profit. And I think that's the mindset, Kathy.
Yes, yes. And that's been part of a lot of the nonprofits that I've worked with. Humanities team, we use those 3 Ps a lot.
Right.
Because the idea, if we are one, then and we're all cells of the earth, then we do have a responsibility. The indigenous knew this. And it's almost like we've been in a dark ages and we're coming back out to the Renaissance, where all of that classical indigenous information is now resurfacing for us to use. So you do have some comments here. There's Cheryl put, is not the only way we can have ethical AI is first humans programming it to be ethical.
So, well, first of all, for keep the question up there. The first thing is, I put out on Facebook, I think it was definitely last year, about the 10 commandments from Red Cloud, or the 10 principles from Red Cloud. And I also put this out on LinkedIn. And I spoke to a wonderful individual, a guy called Kevin Martin, who's a Navajo leader. And I said to him, I said, we can put these principles into AI. And the reason for that is this: we have to honor traditions of the past, traditions today, in order for us to launch into the future. And so how does the digital world honor the Native American traditions? That is cultural and advancement, not cultural destruction, which is something we cannot have. Now, sorry, go ahead.
The reason I brought it up is they're aware of us being part of nature. See, right. I think part of the fear of AI is that we, again, are superior beings on this planet, and that, here all our comforts are taken care of, but who's taking care of the planet, right? And that's why I brought up, I thought we had a renaissance, maybe the time of Lemuria, Atlantis, the early civilizations on the earth. And then we've gone through this construct that was for our learning and our growth, and now we're coming back out and going back to original concept of making decisions that every decision, the impact, you consider 7 generations when you make those decisions, and you don't have short-term business profits as your primary focus, right?
Yes. So the original concepts that you're talking about from ancient civilizations are very important. And as I say, I talk about the Vedas and even Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. I put that into AI.
Perfect.
Now, one of the things that's different is, Kathy, is that we have a lot more people and a lot more energy on our planet. That it's a wonderful experience, but it's very discombobulated, if you like.
Okay.
And so the original thinking of those times, whilst the principles are great, how we actually execute them in the Renaissance period you're talking about, or the new golden age, is now different. But the principles still apply. I think so.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. And then this is interesting that this is the type of fear that we were talking about. We can't trust the government. Why would we do that?
Yeah. So thank you for the loaded question. To answer, and we'll come back to that. Cheryl's question is yes. So Cheryl said to program ethical AI. Well, what did she say? To have ethical AI.
Oh, I'll bring it back up. I apologize.
We'll come back to you, Amanda, because we're not going to ignore that. It's not the only way we can have ethical. It's first humans program it. Yes, that's right, Cheryl. And it's knowing, it's coming back home to what are our culture's beliefs, what are our ethics, what serves humanity well. And then we program the ethics into that. So it's a great question from Cheryl, and the answer is yes, of course.
Perfect.
Right, Amanda, loaded question.
Okay, then here's the loaded question, which is, this is a simple version of why science fiction has created all of these scenarios where one leader takes over. The system is set up to be benevolent and supportive, and one bad apple changes the trajectory of all of it, right?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, is that we should look at all different polarities of experience with AI in order to come to a 0 point to be able to make the right decision.
Perfect.
So this is an important dialogue. So we certainly don't want the Skynet scenario, because I don't want to call Arnie and say, we need you back. Right? Now, Amanda really addresses an incredibly sensitive subject. Pew Research have stated that the majority of American people don't trust their data with the government and the business. That doesn't mean the government is doing bad. I believe from my working within government that government is passionate about doing well. The problem is sometimes it gets stifled through political agenda and also through incumbent heavy governance processes. So I think that we need to go past the experience into the intent, and I don't think the intent is malicious other than they want to do well. Okay, so let's start with that principle, that government do want to do well for the citizens, because at the end of the day, we the people. And so let's look at this paradigm issue, which is the trust paradigm that Amanda's talking about, is this lack of trust. And it has to be addressed. And that's why the book addresses how to bring the public into the conversation of inventing AI with frameworks that are easy to understand, that they'll be able to go to big corporations, local corporations, their mayors, their governors, and say, these are our principles for AI in this framework. That's what we want. And they'll be able to do that. So this has never been possible before. Now, the government haven't announced a trustworthy AI initiative.
Oh.
Now, I could spend hours talking about this.
Please.
So the intent is this from the government, is to, how can we use AI for government services to do better for our citizens? That's a good intent. They're going to face some challenges. The term trustworthy AI is very much a marketing veneer from big corporations and academia. And so we have to examine what on earth is trustworthy AI and what does that mean. What they're also going to recognize is that for AI to be within the national borders, it has to pass a trustworthy digital citizen test that should be shaped by the citizens. Now, each department, like the Department of Homeland Security or the CIA, I'm going to mention it, or even Social Security, okay, or healthcare or other types of departments, all have different cultures. They're based on the principles that founded this nation. So it's a common mindset for AI, but they'll all need a different type of a kind of mindset of AI, because the services will be different, how they deliver them to the citizens. And so we're going to see flavors of AI. But Amanda addresses a very important subject, is that how do we bridge the trust paradigm? Because if the people aren't brought into the conversation of AI, then it's going to be concerning, I think.
She also put, but it's not even though some try, and they don't listen to us to change things. Humanity will be extinct if they don't wake up.
Yes, so Amanda's right about us kind of awakening to our true purpose of the human experience. One of the things in the book is a little bit disruptive, and it explains how you can innovate AI independent of the government and independent of big business. Now, this is not about causing anarchy. This is simply about getting people going to innovate. And what people will find is that as they innovate their framework for AI, that it will be able to, it will align with national values, actually. And there's a way of integrating national values into the AI for communities. Because at the end of the day, Kathy, and government recognise this, they try and do well, but it's a little bit slow in progress.
Right.
And what we're seeing with smart cities is cities are actually innovating faster than government because they need to do well for their citizens. They can't wait around for some debate in Congress that may never conclude positively. And so we have to encourage regional innovation. And the book shows you how to do that so we can get on to it.
So could you please show the cover of the book again and let everyone know it's Inventing World 3.0, Extraordinary Ethics for
Evolutionary ethics.
Sorry. Evolutionary Ethics for Artificial Intelligence. And thank you, everyone. We only have a few more minutes. Does anyone have any other questions that they would like to share? Thank you, everyone. This has been fascinating, and I'm sure we'll have to have more than one conversation.
Sure. So the answer to the question is artificial intelligence the new guru? And it's a different type of guru to advance our world, to advance our relationship with the planet, and to advance our human experience. It's a different type of guru.
Okay. So here we've got, am I correct in understanding that AI is a powerful tool that is neutral and will empower equally those who want to do good or evil?
So what is the definition of good or evil? What is the definition of right or wrong? What is the definition of justice? What is the definition of progress? What is the definition of equity? Peter raises a great question, and what you're starting to understand now, and we're starting to understand together, Kathy, is that this is very much a philosophical conversation that requires in-depth dialogue and exploration to find the truths of what we're truly trying to seek.
Right. This is great. So thank you, everyone. Kate,
John Milton's here.
John Milton's here. Elsie.
The way of nature, everybody. The way of nature.
Yes. And John Milton is a brilliant inspiration for us to use.
By the way, John is mentioned in the book alongside Sir David Attenborough. John is one of the our leaders, isn't he, in the environment and understanding how we can work with the original principles of nature.
Yes, another fellow person from Crestone, and Crestone has some genius in it, that's for sure. So let's make sure that we let everyone know how they can get your book and how that they can work with you, because I'm hoping that this inspires people. I'm hoping this inspires people so that they'll be able to be part of the solution.
Yeah, that's
There's
right.
a lot of energy going into the criticism, but there's a potential for us. We're in an evolutionary step. This is a quantum time, and we have resources that we really could bring to creating this new world. The kids are going to be telepathic. The 2-year-olds right now, the young kids already are. And the internet in a lot of ways is training wheels for our new society. So why not use AI in a way to create a platform that enriches all of that, all of their lives?
Beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. That was beautiful.
So once again, tell everyone how they can reach you, please.
Yes. So if you look at aiethics.world, you can see different options to buy the book. And also we've launched an academy where these principles of how to build AI, we're going to take into government, into business, into universities, into UN SDGs, and also train people on how to program AI, and also into diversity and communities. So you can buy the book on aethics.world. You can contact me on Facebook. That's great. And my vision is this, is that I would love to see the different types of communities start to shape their artificial intelligence that serves their destiny. And the book shows you how to do that.
Beautiful. I can't wait to get my copy. I wish I would have had it before this conversation, but we'll have you back after I've read it, because then I can ask more intelligent questions. Thank you all so much for coming. And again, want to go to aiethics.world and keep watching Matthew James Bailey. Just like Edian Smith had told me, well, keep your eye on this one. He's a force of nature for good. So thank you, Matthew. Thank you
Thanks
so much.
for Thank you, Kathy, for having me. I'll send
Yeah.
you a copy.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you. Please share. Please share this important conversation.